All right, here's the 5.1 homework. Fairly straightforward, I think, homework assignment. There's 12 questions, which really come in three different types. The first type is they give you an angle in radians and they ask you to convert it into degrees. So nothing dealing with coterminal angles. You're not doing any of that. You're just converting this angle measure into degrees. So this is the second of the videos that I made that showed the conversion factors. You'll multiply this by something and get your answer and type it in right here. And then you do the exact same thing on each of the first four. So they're just going to give you some angle in radians and you're going to convert it into degrees. It's worth pointing out on these first four, they don't want expressions as answers. So simplify your answer so that it's either a whole number or a decimal and then type it in that way for these first four. And then the next two are just like the first four, except instead of going from radians to degrees, you're going to go from degrees to radians. And again, nothing to deal with coterminal angles. You're just rewriting 540 degrees in this case in terms of radians. It's worth pointing out that in 5 and 6, expressions are totally acceptable, so maybe your answer will end up looking like a fraction, and that fraction doesn't even have to be reduced. It's a good skill to be able to reduce those fractions to lowest terms, but I tried it. I checked it for 5 and 6, and it lets you get away with unreduced fractions if you want to do it that way. Make sure you have a pi in your answer, which you can get the symbol pi out of here if you go over to trig and then down on the bottom, and you can also pull it up just by typing in pi, and it'll figure out what you mean. There's only two of these where you go from degrees to radians because the second one, really, there's 5 of them, right? So sorry, that's kind of annoying. But on question 6 here, it's just the same thing over and over again. The good news is they choose numbers that are fairly easy for you to do the conversions fairly quickly. And again, if it gets too tedious, you don't even have to reduce those fractional answers that you end up with. So this should go pretty quickly for you. And then the last 6, 7 through 12, we're not converting from degrees to radians. We're staying in whatever unit they gave us. So in 7, 8, and 9, we're staying in radians. But what we're supposed to do is we're supposed to find a coterminal angle. So this is the third of the videos that I made. So they're going to start you out with an angle that's not between 0 and 2 pi. 29 tenths, for example, is a little bit more than 2 pi. And what you have to do is find an angle that's coterminal with this angle that is between 0 and 2 pi. And then you do the same thing in question 8, and then you do the same thing in question 9. For 10 and 11, it's almost the same idea, except instead of starting you out with an angle that's not between 0 and 2 pi, they start you out with an angle that's not between 0 and 360 degrees, because that angle is cited in degrees instead of radians. But same thing, you're looking for a coterminal angle, in this case to something that's negative 41 degrees, that's between 0 and 360, and in this case, one that's 1,122 degrees, that's between 0 and 360. And then that's it. There's the 12th one that's extra credit, but the 12th one isn't really anything clever or different. It's more of the same. There's not that much you can do with this section, so sorry if this seems tedious or boring. If you want to do a little bit more with coterminal angles, you can on this problem. Here's 4 more angles. They're all in degrees that aren't between 0 and 360. And for each one, if you want to find a coterminal angle that is between 0 and 360, you can find that, type min, and then you're done. Definitely not the most exciting homework in the world, but hopefully it's fairly straightforward and easy for you to get through.